stepping up to be on my show, Bad Mike.
That's not true. That is, I bet you that is not true.
I have to go out and have to like, please, will you be on my show?
Oh, that's why I'm here. It's done dredge at the bottom of the bucket. Like, okay, what frog guy can we make show up for Alyssa's show? Oh, it's Mike. What's he doing? He's not doing anything. It's a Tuesday night.
We're on. We are live, and we've started like 1,000,000 miles an hour. Why? Because I have Bad Mike with us tonight. I'm working on Necropolis. I've got one of the frogs with me. Mike, thanks for being here. How else would you introduce yourself? I mean, you are Bad Mike to the industry. You're like one of the bastions of the Frog God booth. You're like one of the pillars that holds it up. What else have you got going on?
So, I'm just one of those guys. I'm lucky enough to have been playing games since like 1978. And if you go to conventions and you meet people and you hang out and you collect stuff, after a while, everybody kind of knows you. So I'm kind of one of those guys that's famous for not really doing anything to be famous for. So, but I mean, yeah, you're right. Everybody knows who I am, mostly because the midnight auction. I help run North Texas RPG Con, where we're gonna have our 13th year this year. We actually did have a convention last year, so this will be our 13th year. And we have the midnight auction there, so everybody has seen pictures of me online dressed like the devil, and they all, oh yeah, you're Bad Mike, yeah. But I also do customer service for Frog God Games. I do a podcast with Eric Tenkar called Talking Crit every Wednesday night. And I just kind of, just one of those people just hangs around the industry and just gloms onto famous people like yourself and, tries to, act like I'm important. So,
I gotta be honest with you, man. I gotta be honest with you. And no one will fully understand this. When you say you run the North Texas auction, it's unlike anything I've honestly. I'm getting a little bit emotional because I won't get to experience it. But it's like, so 2 years ago, I think it was, we were physically at your convention, and we're tired, right? We're tired. It's a midnight auction night, and Jack and I just want to go to bed. We want to watch cooking shows on TV because that's what we do at conventions, and we're like, no, we've got to. Everyone's telling us we have to experience this midnight auction.
You really do, and it's true.
And
you did,
holy
didn't you?
balls! It was It was an experience.
Really
it was so good. I mean, it is past midnight. I was dog tired. It gave me energy. I had tears running down my cheeks from laughter. It was so good. It was so good.
And so I'm not sure I know that about our second or third con, this is something I've always wanted to do if I ever ran a con, which I thank you so much to my partner, Doug Ray, for, basically pays for the North Texas RPG Con. We don't make any money doing it. So, but yeah, I always thought it'd be fun to do something on I've been to the Gen Con auctions. They have a great auction, and it goes pretty much every day. And then Saturday night, they usually have the collectible part of their auction. I think they moved it to Friday the last few years, but it'd just be, you'd be up late, you're tired, but you get all this energy because you're like, man, I just had a great convention, and I want to spend a little money, and it would get a little crazy, a little weird maybe. And I thought, this is the kind of energy I really want to, plug into. And so when we're doing our con, I pitched this idea to Doug. It's like, yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna get rid of a bunch of garbage we have in the warehouse, and I'm gonna dress like the devil. And he just like, yeah, whatever. It just sounded ridiculous. It sounded ridiculous. He's like, yeah, whatever. So the first year we probably had about, I don't know, 30 or 40 people, and everybody just had a ball, and we auctioned off just garbage stuff, and we had funny stories. And I didn't dress like the devil till halfway through the auction. I went behind a curtain, came out, and I was the devil. And so since somebody said, you need to lead with that, man. That's the funny part, is you dressed up in a cape and horns. That's what we need to do. And I was like, maybe you're right. And so the next year it got a little bigger, and then we had girls. The next year we had girls dressed up in like devils. And then the next year got a little bigger, and it just grow. And then the last year we had it was standing room only. You saw how packed
standing room only, and you were turning people away.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the room has a limit. You can only have 200 people in the room. And it was like, no, we've gone past the limit. No, you can't. The fire department's going to shut us down. But we have a great time. Lloyd Metcalf is my buddy in this. He helps me out. He's just a riot too. He's hilarious. Jen Glazer and Jen Green are my Devilettes. They dress up like devils too. I mean, it's just turned into this giant event. It's so funny. We have such a great time. It starts at midnight. It's kind of one of those things that you're just bone tired at the convention. Let's just have a good time. Let's have a drink. Watch this fat fool make a fool of himself. Watch this fat dude make a fun of himself, and just have a great time. Bid on some just really janky items that I mean, sometimes there's some good stuff. There's Lloyd usually paints a really beautiful picture to auction. Sometimes there's some nice things, but mostly it's just kind of garbage.
Or when Bill Webb, what was it? Bill Webb's like, I'll give you $300 for that bottle of Jack Daniels. And I think you emptied it out, and you were like, all right. And you,
because he just wanted the bottle. He said the bottle, and so we emptied the bottle out into another cup and drank it, and yes, that got a round of applause.
Or when Ian was the whole row behind Guppy has got Guppy's number up, and everyone behind Guppy was bidding for him. Oh my God!
Yeah, but it's got to the point now where we just do all these bits, and the whole audience is in on all the bits. So it's one of those things. If we have a lot of people that go every year that don't really know what's happening. Like I talked to one of our serving girls, Jessica Hanchy. She's been with us almost a decade now. And she doesn't really necessarily know a lot about games. So she goes to every midnight auction. I asked her, it's like, do you understand any of the jokes we make? She's like, no, I don't understand any of the jokes you make because it's all inside. It's all gaming inside stuff. She said, but it's just so funny because everybody's having such a great time and laughing so hard. She said, the stuff I do get, it's hilarious. So she goes, I don't get half of it. I'm like, so, even if you don't know what's going on, my wife doesn't have a clue what we're talking about. But, she thinks it's funny, too, because, I'm up there acting like a goofball. But...
It's a cornerstone of the freaking industry as far as I'm concerned right now. It's like, if you've not experienced a midnight auction, you got it at some point. No, it is. It's so good. It's so good.
If I can pimp a little bit, too, we are going to have North Texas this year. We don't expect as many people because obviously, we have a pandemic going on. But people are getting vaccinated every day. Every day I pull up Facebook and somebody else has got their shots. And Doug and I are on the list. I think I'm about 10 days away. He's pretty close. And we're 1B, what they call 1B, which means we're not old enough and we have all kinds of comorbidities. I mean, we're gamers, we got comorbidities out the wazoo. And so we're up the list. So we're looking 3 months from now, and a lot of our special guests, since they're older, they've had their shots. Alan Hammock, Dennis Astaire, they've said they're going to come because they've been vaccinated. So it should be fun this year. It's not going to quite be back to normal. Because obviously a lot of people still can't travel. People that are younger are probably not going to have their shots by then. And we have no problem if you have to stay home. It makes perfect sense because you want to be safe.
But there is no denying that the shots are going around. Like you say, I see more and more people on Facebook saying, I got mine today. I got my second shot today. And Jack's had both of his. So
yeah, that's Jack.
Yeah, right.
How come Jack gets his before you? That's crazy.
Well, it's not arguably, but he works in the medical industry.
Oh, he did. So yeah, he's got the insight. Well, yeah, I got mad. My brother and his whole family, his wife's a nurse. And next time I turn around, my brother has got his shot. I'm like, what the hell? He's like, oh, because we had the. But they have this thing where if they're leftover doses, they call people on a list. Like, hey, we've got 5 doses left over. We have to get these shots out, otherwise we throw them away. And so he and my nephew and niece all got on a list, and boom, 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 they're all done. I'm like, wow, don't I get a list? Come on, man. But no, it's gonna be great. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna be somewhat back to normal. We're still gonna require masks to be worn, and and obviously we have a whole hotel, so distancing's not gonna be an issue. But yeah, it's gonna. I really think in the next 3 months, they said we've got almost 10% of the population of the United States vaccinated already. And so if we, next 3 months, shoot, we're looking good. So we're going to be excited about that. So yes, we have the North Texas. If you're interested, go to Tabletop Events, North Texas RPG Con. We're not necessarily recommending people travel if you feel safe traveling, okay, but we understand if you don't want to travel, because I'm actually really kind of out on traveling right now myself. Last year we did have the con, but we only had maybe and they were all locals. 50 local people attend, and we were very careful. We didn't have any problems, but yeah, we had a lot of mask wearing, and we had got the hotel. They couldn't cancel the contract on us, so we had the entire hotel to ourselves. There's like 50 people walking around this ghost town hotel because the restaurant's closed, everything's closed. But they let us. They said, "Oh, you can have the convention there. It's just that we don't have. We fired our convention staff, and we have about half the people working at the hotel. So we just made it a local thing. Said, yeah, if you want to show up and game, it's fine. But man, there was some social distancing going on. We had one point we had one table in the entire ballroom." And there's 6 people at this one table, and they're spaced out 10 feet apiece.
That's awesome.
Man,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was great. So yeah, we're looking forward to getting going back to normal this year, and so I'm excited. I can't wait to see you and Jack again. We were just talking before the show came up about how we just don't get to see each other, and because we see each other at cons all the time, it's terrible. And that's one of the things you miss about having a con is that you get to see all these people you don't get to see normally, and it blows because we love you and Jack, and so yeah, especially Jack. I mean, you're okay, but
oh no, well,
Jack.
I'm Jack's assistant. I mean, no, I get it. Everyone loves Jack. I am okay with it. I recognize where the love goes to. I really do.
No, but yeah, we love seeing you guys, and and Eric and I talk about this all the time, talking crit about how that's what we like to go to conventions for. We don't necessarily buy a lot of stuff. We don't really play in a lot of games. We don't really run games, but we schmooze. We like to go there and talk to people and talk to everybody and say, what have you been up to since the last time I saw you? How's your game going? How, are you writing anything? I mean, that's the kind of, you just kind of hang out and do the schmooze thing. And so that's one thing you miss about not having cons in person. And plus seeing all the special guests. I mean, those guys, they're not getting any younger, right? I mean, those special guests, a lot of the people like Alan Hammock, and he'll be at our con this year, and Dennis Astaire and people like that. They have a finite. I mean, look, we all have a finite time, but they have a more finite time than a lot of us. So we want to see them as much as we can, and it just blows that last year was just such a train wreck.
And I really get on with Alan, so no, I get.
He's
that.
a great.
He's a great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he was so excited to get his shot. I mean, he was like, "Man, I'm gonna call." I mean, he texted me the minute he got his second shot. Like, "I'll be there. It's gonna be 2 weeks, and I'm like, "Okay, all right, man." That's great. Dennis Astaire did the same thing. Dennis and his wife are older. His wife has a lot of medical issues, so he couldn't go out because of his wife. I mean, he, and he was like, "I would have come to you guys' con, but I didn't want to bring anything back to my wife." We're like, "Well, no, he's in his late 70s." Like, no, you stay at home. We don't want you to come, And so he was so excited to get his second shot too, because now he's planning to come. And so yeah, these guys know that they have a limited time and they want to see people, and it's just it's tough. It was tough for everybody, It's tough for those guys, but it's tough for guys like us too, because you and I, we like to hang out at the bar and maybe have a drink or two and hang and do fun things, and you can't do that at home, right? It's just not the same.
No, that's a huge part of it for me. I like to play a couple of games, run a couple of games, and then go to the bar and sit and hang out with people like you, Eric, Bill Webb, and just talk and laugh and joke. I miss that. I miss that so much. Yeah.
Yeah, that and Eric and I talk a lot about. By the way, let me pimp Talking Crit too. That's the podcast.
By the way, you can pimp talk as much as you like. You can put links in the chat and everything. Please do. That's the whole freaking point.
Because
in fact, tell us about it. Tell us about this. I put a link in the chat.
Okay.
Well, it says Triple Unite. Tell us what this is.
What is the Talking Crit or?
Yeah, tell us about actually Talking Crit. Tell us about that one first.
So Talking Crit. So that's another thing. So I always wanted to run a con. Got to do that. Very happy. I always wanted to have a podcast, but I'm not that interesting. I can't really sit there for an hour or 2 hours and talk about stuff. Not like yourself. I mean, I love watching your mapping shows, and sometimes I used to just log in, not even say anything. I just would sit there. It's a great thing to have on the background. You know what I'm saying? I just watch you do your maps, and it's just like it's cool. But if you're doing a podcast, you got to talk the whole time. Like, well, what am I going to talk about? And so luckily, I'm good friends with Eric Tenkar, he's done a blog for over a decade now. Tenkar's Tavern, very well known in the community, great guy, just nice guy, great guy. He's been doing podcasts and live streams. He had you on a live stream earlier this year, I believe.
Yep.
And he does live streams, and so we talked years like we need to both do a podcast because we're very simpatico. We work at conventions for Frog God. We just sit there and we just talk the whole time we're behind the booth. And so we said we need to, we talk about a lot. We believe a lot of the same things. We need to, and we just get along. It's weird because you can't force chemistry, right? You either have it or you don't.
That's true.
And so last year, Eric almost died about 3 times. I joke about it, but I mean, he really was sick. I mean, he's very, very sick. Not COVID related. He had pneumonia. He had close to having a heart attack. They caught it in time. Just all kinds of stuff happened. And then after he got out, we said, we need to do this podcast thing. We can't just keep talking about it. So we started this thing called Talking Crit. And so 2 hours every Wednesday night, we sit there and we just talk about current events in gaming. And we'll have a special guest on, but we don't do interviews or reviews. We just have them on to talk with us about, they pimp their products and stuff, but we just mostly just have them on there talking about whatever we're talking about, and it's great. We've had, this year we've had Skeeter on. It was actually that was kind of a failure of a show because Skeeter's kind of a failure as a human, but it was it was I'm just kidding. I love Skeeter. Love Skeeter. We had Zach on last week. We actually did a thing this year. We had Total Con. Every night of Total Con, we broadcasted a special guest at Total Con. So we had Alan Hammock one night, Christopher Clark another night, Zach Glazer one night. Oh gosh, who we had we had Angelia who runs the convention on another night.
Oh, so, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. We just want to support their con because we appreciate the people that are having to do online cons now, because it's tough. If you're used to doing, it's just not the same, online con's fine, but it's not like seeing everybody in person. So we try to help. Anyway, so we did Talking Crit, and every Wednesday night for about 2 hours we just talk about whatever. I'll put a link up there. It's on YouTube. We use some kind of weird streaming thing. I don't know how electronics work. Thank God Eric knows the stuff, but we have a lot of fun, and we if somebody does something stupid in gaming, we're usually talking about it, laughing at them. And so unfortunately we usually bang on Wizards of the Coast a lot because they have some gaffes. We had and if anybody in the industry does something goofball, we'll usually talk about it and laugh about it. But yeah, it's not mean spirited. It's just kind of it's fun. And we tomorrow night we're going to have Dr. Greg Gillespie, who he has done Barrel Maze, Forbidden Caverns of Archaea, and Floating Dungeons of Highfell, and he's going to do another Kickstarter for his next project, his next Mega Dungeon. He does Mega Dungeons. I think it's called it's Dwarrow Maze. It's basically a dwarven thing. It's something dwarven, but it's like Barrel Maze. I guess. If it's not, forgive me, Greg. But yeah, so he'll be doing that, and then I think the week after that we have Courtney on, and so yeah, we've got to the point now where we actually have people asking to be our guests, which is cool. It makes you think that you're doing something right, but a lot of this is just and you probably know this too. If you do something consistently, that's how you get people to watch your show or to talk to you. You have to do something every week at the same time and do the same kind of thing, and that was tough with us, but we've been almost doing it a year now, so it's gotten to where we're on a pretty tight schedule now. And I mean, you're the same way, you like to do your thing and you like to have it. I mean, that's how you do it. It's like exercising. You miss 1 or 2 shows and then all of a sudden, I don't know when I'm going to do the next one, and you just got to get out of the habit, right?
And I did that last year when I got in my little COVID funk.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm just going to skip a day. And that day turned into like 3 weeks.
But everybody got into COVID funk. But I understand where you're coming from. I absolutely understand it. Yeah.
It's easy. You got to stay on the schedule. And I think people expect it too. Like, if I adjust my schedule, I swear it takes a day or 2 before people go, oh, she's back. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But if I'm like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, same time, yep. I get the viewers. If I skip a day, they drop off the face of the earth.
You lose people, yep. And that's why streamers, every wonder why streamers are streaming all the time. That's why, because people, the more you stream, the more viewers you get. And so these guys are smart. They have monetary reasons to stream all the time, and they don't miss. Those guys do not miss a stream. Those famous streamers, not one, because there's studies that show that if you skip a stream, you lose X amount of viewers permanently. They're just like, oh, he didn't have a stream this week. They go on and do something else.
They do something else, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Pex, always feel free, because I know that you're around, to drop in links for Bad Mike here to his shows that he's talking about.
Pex. I can't trust Pex to do anything. I'll just have to do it myself. I just talked to Pex yesterday. A little Pex, sexy Pexy.
Sexy Pexy? Did you just say sexy Pexy?
I call him sexy Pexy all the time, yes. But that's another thing. I haven't seen Pex all year. Pex and I are buds, man. We were just talking the other day, like, hey, what have you been up to? I haven't talked to you on the phone in so long. We're like, oh yeah. I mean, that storm in Texas, was it terrible for you? Yeah, it was. And so we hadn't talked in so long, and that was great to hear from him.
So actually, talking about storm in Texas and stuff, how did you fare on that one?
I was okay. We were okay because, so for those that don't know, which I think most people, I guess you know, but we had like a once in a generation storm in Texas. And literally, I'm 58 years old. We have not had a storm this bad my entire life. So it was been 60 or more years since we had a storm this bad. Temperatures got down below zero, and homes in Texas are not built for storms like that. And so we had busted pipes, we had electricity out, we had 6 or 8 inches of snow on the ground, which people up north just laugh at that. But we don't have the infrastructure here. We don't have plow trucks. We don't have any of that stuff. And so, yeah, we were very lucky at our house. We did not lose power, but we did lose internet for 6 days. And so that sucked. And so I had to end up coming out here to the warehouse, which I'm at right now. I'm at the North Texas warehouse. And I came out here. The internet was still on here. It was great. So my wife worked from out here, and then my son-in-law, who was taking online classes, also came out here. So we were all just kind of snuggled up here at the warehouse.
Oh, that worked out real well.
We were very lucky. We had no pipes burst. I had a neighbor that pipes burst. It was awful. You can't imagine. His water heater was in his ceiling. It was in his attic.
Ooh.
Burst out, flooded the entire house from the ceiling. It was just like rained inside his house, basically.
Yeah.
It was awful. But yeah, and we had a lot of people in Texas that had similar stories. It was pretty bad. But here's the funny thing. We had that storm, and literally a week later, it's 70 degrees. I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt right now. It's been like, 2 or 3 weeks. It's supposed to be 80 degrees this week. So it was just a crazy once-in-a-lifetime storm. It was nuts. And so the Texas was not prepared for it. They fired everybody on the ERCOT board, which was the Energy Board of Texas, because you remember when they had Katrina, the first thing they griped about was, we've been giving you money all these years to fix the levee, and y'all didn't fix the levee, and it busted. Well, that's kind of the same thing with Texas. Like, hey, what have we been paying you for the past 10 years? You're supposed to, we're not supposed to lose all our electricity and destroy people's houses because they had to shut off electricity. So yeah, they fired everybody. So hopefully they'll get their S together, and we won't have something like that happen again. But it was wild. It was a once in a lifetime storm for here. I'm trying to think that the only thing I could compare it to is if, let's say you had temperature of 105 for like a week up there. It would just be unfathomable, right? I mean, you've never even had temperatures like that. Nobody has enough air conditioners to prepare for something like that. I mean, it would just be ridiculous. That's kind of how it was for us.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Mike. Any semi-severe weather for Portland, and the whole city turns to shit. And I mean that. It's like Portland is prepared for nothing. Genuinely. It's like, well, you're prepared for snow, aren't you? No, right. We're not. We 2 inches of snow on our city shuts down because they don't have plows or anything here.
That's how we were. Yeah, we don't have any plows either.
And you would think that we would be used to it, but we're not. So anything at all, ice storm shuts down. Severe hot weather shuts down. It's like we're just prepared for nothing in this particular part of the world.
Well, I don't feel that bad about Texas being ridiculously underprepared then. But in our case, that was the whole state. This is how crazy it was. I have relatives down South Padre Island, which is way down the tip of Texas by Mexico. Actually, where I'm going to retire someday. I have a lot of relatives there. It's a beautiful beach. They got below freezing. They haven't been below freezing there in like 15 years. My aunt lost all her lemon and lime trees, died. I mean, it just never gets that cold. It was ridiculous how cold it got in Texas. So yeah, it was something that hopefully it won't happen again. But man, that was we were lucky to get as light an effect as we did in terms of not having electricity. We always had electricity, and we always had power, and the internet being out, it was doable, you know. That was something you could do. Oh, it was funny though, because all the stores, there was no trucks, so it was. Remember at the beginning of the pandemic when everybody was running out of everything? There's no toilet paper. There's no, you know, you're running to the store. There's nothing there. That's how it was, because the fast food restaurants were running out of food. I mean, everybody ran out of food. You know, if you didn't have something stuck away, you were in trouble. All the grocery stores had empty shelves. There was no trucks. None of the delivery trucks could come. So that was a little weird. But we have enough food. My wife and I have. We got cans of food here and there, so we were able to keep it going. But yeah,
that's good.
If you wanted to go to Jack in the Box or Arby's or something, there was my daughter went one night with her husband, and they waited in line like behind 15 cars. By the time they got there, they hung out a sign saying "No more food."
Oh my word!
And so they ran out of food at the Arby's. She got home. She was so mad. She was, I can't believe they did that. Like, well, I can see they ran out of food. Like everything? Like they don't have any fries? Or she's like, no, she just wanted one thing apparently. Like, no, they didn't have that. So, all right.
See, Alex Vixen, who's in the chat with us, she comes from Scotland. She's in Scotland right now. And she was like, yeah, if it's not over the knees, we just let the gritters and everything deal with it. And, yeah, that's how it is. I remember driving to work in England in snow that was like 2 feet deep. And it was like, yeah, well, I'm still going to work. It's like, it's different altogether. Then here in Portland, 2 inches, the whole city shuts down.
Well, in England, you don't have snow a lot, right? I mean, it's more just rainy stuff. You don't really get snow, do you? Like in London, or I guess northern England, you would.
I think it really depends on the part that you're in. I mean, just like the United States in that way. There's some parts that get a lot of snow. But no, you're right. Sort of, definitely my part. I mean, obviously, Alex Vixen is up in the north. She's up in Scotland. I was more middle country. And so we didn't used to get it that much. But the weird thing about England is we would get ice way more than I've ever experienced in any part of the United States. And I think it's because it's so damp. So when the temperatures drop, thick ice, like super
Makes
thick.
Sense, yeah.
And I've never encountered anything like it when I moved over here at all.
Well, Texas can't drive in ice or snow. I mean, we have an inch, the whole city shuts down. And the people who come from up north that move here are just always appalled at how terrible we get. But we just don't get it that much. You know, it's we don't drive in it. I mean, you might get snow for 2 or 3 years here. You know, I mean, and so when you do get it, you're like, oh my God, you know, I'm just going to stay inside. I'm not going to drive this. And so, yeah, and then most everything shuts down in that case. This is just, like I said, it was just insane. It reminds me, I wonder if it was Chicago a couple of years, maybe it's longer than that. They had a whole week of like over 100-degree temperatures. They got like 300 people died. I mean, it was crazy because nobody has air conditioners. They you know, it never gets that hot in the summer, and they had people just dropping dead right and left. I mean, it was crazy, and that's kind of how this was. It was just they opened up civic centers, and they called them warming centers, because so many people had their electricity out, and so they had to open up places to sleep. I mean, it was absolutely nuts. So. That's one of the reasons we have our conventions in the summer, because it's always going to be hot in the summer in Texas. So you just prepare for that. Okay, it's going to be hot, and you don't have to worry about any weird weather. Although we had some rainstorms, a couple of the North Texas, but yeah, most of the part it's just going to be hot, and you're going to be in a hotel anyway. Who cares if it's hot?
Yeah,
You're
no,
not supposed to
totally,
go out anywhere.
totally. That was a little bit like Gamehole Con when Jack and I went there. It's like, yeah, you're going to have snow. And it's like, all right, fair enough. Right. But we'll be in a hotel, so it doesn't matter. Except when you've got to walk from the hotel to the actual convention and there's no heating there. It's like, okay.
Yes. And there's only one hotel at Gamehole Con. There's only one hotel connected to the Civic Center. The other ones, you have to take a shuttle or just try to drive them. You really can't walk. The other ones are pretty far away. That's because I know some friends of mine that went a couple years ago, like, oh, we're at the Holiday Inn down the street, we'll just walk. I said, I don't think you realize what a walk that is. It is not a short walk, and there's nothing. It's not like a pleasant walk, right? There's just this sidewalk, no trees, no fences. You're just going to get blown by the wind, and so
it's actually a weird layout, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like Jack and I. You're right. The other hotels are just like yonks away. They're just yonks away.
Yeah.
And it's all just main roads everywhere.
Right.
But then it's like, well, there must be a restaurant or something outside because we've got this hotel. No, there's nothing. There's just nothing.
You gotta go places. I know that, Alex is such a mover and shaker there in Madison. I think they're redoing the Civic Center. They're supposed to have more hotels attached, and I think they're going to have places to eat. So that they really need to get that a little better set up the way it is. I mean, it's a nice Civic Center. It's really huge. It's really, and the hotel is isn't that great, but it's connected. But the other hotels around are really nice. They're just not connected to the Civic Center. You got to find your way there. So, but yeah, that's a really, we wish we had something like that here for North Texas. We don't really, you have to go to Dallas or Fort Worth for a civic center like that. We don't want to do that. We like being where we're at. We're kind of...
No, yours is cozy, man.
Yeah,
yours is really nice. And you have one of the best bar areas that I've encountered at any convention. I mean, it's brilliant.
Well, thank you. Well, they're a really nice hotel. We've been very lucky with the 2 or 3 hotels we've had. Because it's funny, because running a convention, RPG convention, there's still a lot of people that don't really know what that means, and so we've had some not really issues, but when we switch hotels, we'll say, look, here's what we do: we run games and stuff, and just like video games, like no, not video games. These are games where you sit at a table and play games. Like war games, no, not really war games either. So it takes a while to get it right, but we've been very lucky that the couple hotels we had are like, okay, we got you, we know what you need, we figured it out, and they cater, they do a good job of catering to us. Now the hotel we're at now, we're a little worried because of COVID last year, they let go of all their convention staff. But I mean, which makes sense. They had no conventions last year to speak of. So we're wondering how much help we're going to have this year, because I don't know if they've hired them back yet or not. I don't think conventions are still a thing yet. I think we'll be okay by the fall, but June may be a little too soon for them to have their act together, really. I think by the fall we'll be fine. Alex Kamer's game hole, if he decides to have it, I think it's going to be great, because I think everybody will be vaccinated by then. But yeah, so I don't know. We may be busting our own tables. I don't know. I don't know what we'll be doing, but hopefully not. But yeah, and then hopefully by 2021 we'll be fully back to normal. It'll be great, and hopefully you and Jack can come see us again.
Oh, we will. We will, without a doubt.
We're trying to get. We have this year, I think, Matt Finch and Zach Glazer will be there from Frog Guide. I believe Pexy's coming up. I mean, you're coming, right, Pex? I mean, certainly Pex is going to come up. So yeah, we'll have a few people there. This will be, this is almost kind of like us getting ready again for next year. You know what I'm saying? We'll probably have maybe a couple hundred people, and we'll be able to figure it out. Like, okay, what can we do? What can we not do? And then we'll be, by 2021 we'll be back in the groove, and I feel sorry for a lot of people don't realize this. A lot of conventions went under in the last year, and that's one of the reasons I know that Gen Con is really trying to push going forward with this year, because that's a business, that's a big business, and they lose a lot of money not having a convention, not having a Gen Con, or let's say Origins or Dragon Con or San Diego Comic Con. Those are big businesses.
These guys are on a different level, aren't they? I mean, they are different stratosphere. I wondered about them last year. I mean, I have no idea what their revenue is or anything like that. But you can't have a convention that has 60,000 people, plus all of the revenue, obviously, that those 60,000 people create for the city itself, not happen without it hitting the pocketbook somehow.
And then if you talk about something like Dragon Con or San Diego Comic Con, you're talking 100,000 people. I mean, you're talking literally millions of dollars at stake here. And so I know that they've been really invested in trying to make these things happen live again, but you want to be safe too, right? I mean, especially with that many people. I have to admit, I know this sounds terrible, but I don't think I would attend a 60,000 person convention.
No, it's a little bit different. If you're saying, hey, I'm running a convention, we won't have the numbers that we would normally have. We're going to have, let's say, 100 people, but we could do social distancing and so on and so forth. That's a level of reassurance. If I'm going to go to a convention that's got 60,000 people, there is no social distancing with 60,000 people.
And Alyssa, you've been to conventions. How many guys don't? I mean, Gamer Funk. How many guys don't put on underarm deodorant? Are you going to trust that guy to tell you whether or not he's had a vaccination, or not to cough on your food if he feels sick? No, you can't trust these people to wear deodorant.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to trust
part of the attraction to some folks, and I don't quite know why, with these big conventions, is they like the crowds. They like being all jammed in and everything. I not in the COVID world, you ain't. That one, yeah.
Maybe if I was 20 and I went to Rolling Stones concert, I thought it was awesome. But yeah, I'm in my 50s. It's not awesome anymore. I don't want to be jammed in with a bunch of people that I don't know that are coughing all over me and breathing on me. And so yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And actually, that's a subject that Eric and I actually talk about a lot on Talking Crit, is how these conventions are going to look in the next few years, because I don't think everybody's ready to get back yet. Especially a lot of the older people. You've got the old guard. They're pushing late 60s, early 70s, and they're right within. I mean, 90% of the people that have died of COVID are 65 and older. I mean, it's tough. Boy, you just grind that. You are a damn machine, girl. Look at this.
Well, it's easy, my friend, when I'm sitting there just chatting with you, and I'm just sitting there drawing, it's...
I know, but I would have got bored 15 squares ago. I don't know how, or actually 50 squares ago. So you're doing Necropolis, correct?
I am working on Necropolis right now, and this is the lowest level. So I'm actually going to zoom out real quick. The level that I'm drawing is this. Rahotep's tomb. Lower level. I've done the entire top level. Have you seen the top level?
I mean, I have the original, but I haven't seen you do it. Oh,
well,
awesome.
You know what? I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to actually open the top level.
I would love to see
Hold on a sec. I'm going to show you right here on the stream. And then maybe you said that you had some stories about Necropolis.
Well, so I can give you. I mean, I can actually give some interesting background, because I'm an old fart. But so Necropolis was, so when Gary was fired from TSR, he started a company, started a new game system, Dangerous Journeys. He and Frank Menser and a few other people. And one of pretty much the only adventure he ever made for this system was Necropolis. And it's considered, it's kind of like a Dangerous Journeys Tomb of Horrors. I mean, it's a killer dungeon. It's basically a killer dungeon. It's going to kill your characters. And so I remember buying it when it came out, and I couldn't make heads or tails of it because I didn't understand the system Dangerous Journeys. I remember reading it and thinking, maybe I could convert this to first edition. I just never did. I never did. So, but it was just a cool dungeon. I remember reading it going, man, this is badass. This is some cool stuff. But nothing ever happened with that. And then, of course, after that, Dangerous Journeys got in Lorraine Williams sued. TSR sued them based on the trademark, and they said it was too much like D&D. It really wasn't. But it was one of those lawsuits. They just basically did it to destroy Gary, right? Because even if you win, you lose. You know what I'm saying? You're spending enough on lawyers. And from what I understand, Gary and Frank actually got a check. Ended up getting a check from TSR, but it was by the time the company had been destroyed. So this dungeon was just sitting there, and then years later, for Necromancer Games, Bill and Clark go, "Hey, we'd love to convert this to 3rd edition," And so they did a 3rd edition version. I remember buying that too, because okay, maybe I can understand that a little better. And I didn't know 3rd edition, so I'm reading the same thing, it's got these giant page-long stat blocks, and once again, I'm just never going to run it because I just don't know the system. But once again, I'm sitting there going, this is such a cool adventure. And then fast forward 20 years to today, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do a 5th edition version. I think I can understand a 5th edition version. So I may actually get a chance to.
You might get to play it after all of these years, then.
Especially the cool maps. I mean, the Alyssa Fat maps are that's look. All props to whoever was working in Dangerous Journeys at the time, but the map making skills of you are really good, and just the equipment you have, right? I mean, what you have to work with now versus what they had to work with in 1989.
Oh yeah, it's a different universe, 100%. It really is. But yeah, I don't know if you see this on the Switch stream right here.
Huh? I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
This is, and of course, this is going to get printed on canvas. My understanding.
Oh wow.
So okay, we've got all of the details in here. Whether it be, all of the statues, or if it's in the description, it's on the map.
And
you know,
that's what you're known for, lady. Because I remember doing Teagle Manor, you and I would look through that, and if there was a saucer on a table with a cherry in it and a pencil next to it, you put that all in there. It was great.
It's going in there.
It's
going in there. Exactly. So when it comes to a room like this and it describes shelves with like all bottles and everything on there, and there's a vase on the table, and the vase has got steam coming out of it. I'm like, okay, then this is what we're doing. Well, I want to play this one myself. I gotta be honest with you.
Well, I talked to Mark Greenberg, who's doing the conversion for this, and he's pretty beaten down because he goes, I have to rewrite this, Mike. I'm like, why? He goes, this isn't just a killer dungeon. This is like impossible things to do. That he said there's like a room you go in and there's like 15 things. If you touch the wrong one, you die, but there's no clue about which one to touch. He said so you're gonna lose about 18 henchmen making them touch everything and then dying before you figure out the right one. He goes, there's stuff like that all through here because for what I remember reading, Gary said this was his Tomb of Horrors. I mean,
it definitely is. And he says right at the beginning of this dungeon, Gary's words were something along the lines of, people are going to die here, and only smart players might even get partway through it.
Right.
And it's
yeah.
He may as well have just said, and too bad.
Well, I'm talking to Mark. I'm saying, well, that's where you use stuff like commune spells, and you talk to your deity, and instead of sending 18 people to go touch all of the statues and die, you have to use your head, right? You can't.
I think that's when your alignment shifts, Mike. You can't just have your henchmen touching shit in the room, watching them pop.
That's what I was saying. That's why you talk. That's why you use commune or divination or something. And say, look, I don't, please let me know, my guy, which way to take. And yeah, you got to be smart. You throw your fine traps out there. You don't have to just brute force it through. But yeah, I'm really excited. Looks like I'll finally be able to actually read this and understand it, and then actually run people through it.
Well, maybe play it. Maybe we could even get you to play it at a convention or something.
I would be delighted to do that. I loved seeing Teagle Manor finally done because I love Teagle Manor, and I've actually got to run it, but I haven't played it yet. I actually got to run it at one point. And the great thing about Teagle Manor is it's so big that no two games are alike, right? I mean, it just depends what door you go in and what part you just choose to explore. There's tunnels everywhere and secret passages. It's crazy. And so I've actually run it. I don't think I ever get bored of running Teagle Manor because it's never alike. It's just a different experience.
I'll have to get you to run Teagle Manor for me. We'll have to get some people together. You've got to run Teagle Manor. I've never played Teagle Manor.
It's great. It's fun because it's one of those dungeons you can be first level or you can be 15th level and you have a ball. And I have a great story about playing it at Gen Con one year. I think it was 2007. We call it it was the shrew. It was the evil shrew because we witnessed, we had like 7 or 8th level characters. We were going through just busting everything. We're just kicking ass and taking names. We get this one room and there's a killer shrew in there, which is a giant rat basically. And we could not kill the shrew. We couldn't roll to save our lives. So the DM basically said, Alan, who's Alan Silcock, great friend of mine. I haven't spoken to him in years. He's from England also, and the shrew jumped on my back and was boring a hole through the back of my head, and I couldn't reach it. So everybody else in the party was trying to attack, and of course they were missing the shrew and hitting me in the head. And he just had the most hilarious time with that. But I believe that room is in the new dungeon too. There's a giant shrew. If there's come to remember the giant shrew, that's the giant shrew that basically destroyed our 7th level party because we couldn't hit it and we ended up killing each other, like throwing spells and swinging, and we're hitting each other and killing. We're not doing any damage to the stupid rat because we're rolling ones. We're rolling critical misses every time. Yeah, we ended up destroying the room and basically just destroying ourselves because of this stupid shrew. But it'd been the kind of counter. If we'd been first level, we might have been able to, take care of it. We just didn't know what we were doing. But yeah, it's a great dungeon like that because it has all kinds of, there's something for everybody in there. You can, depending on how you choose to approach the dungeon, you can try to bull your way through it, or you can just try to be stealthy and sneak around. But yeah, it's a great adventure. It's
Well, and
and
it's a
the
full campaign setting too, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah, because you're never gonna you can't map this thing in 1 or 2 sessions. This is gonna be something you're gonna have to spend a lot of time messing with. And honestly, I don't know that much about Necropolis in that regard. I think Necropolis. Well, the great thing about Necropolis is a huge setting, a very Egyptian type setting. Because Gary was very fascinated with Egyptian stuff and anything historical. Because Gary's start was in war games, right? And so he wrote a lot of articles and books about war games, and so he was very familiar with all the different historical periods, and he was just fascinated by Egyptian stuff. So yeah, that's this kind of his ode to the classic Egyptian tomb, dungeon type thing, and I'm really excited to see it finally be modernized. And 5th edition's great because I can read a 5th edition item and I can run it for almost any version of D&D. Really, I mean. That's the great thing about 5e. I mean, I don't really play 5e, but I can very easily read a 5e book and then say, okay, I can do this for 2e or 1e or.
And I don't think there's enough of that, actually, Mike, to be honest with you. Like, everyone gets into these edition war conversations, but it's like, dude, it doesn't matter what version it is. You can run it in any other version.
You should be able to,
right?
And well, I mean, but some people want everything spoon-fed to them, right? They don't I don't want to think that hard. And I understand that, but that's why 5e is so popular. It's because it's the buy-in time is really short. I mean, I don't play 5e, but honestly, if you had to be a 5e character and said, okay, we're going to play a game, I could do it. Now, I could do that with a 3e character. I think 3e has a much steeper learning curve. I know a lot of people like that or like Pathfinder quite a bit, but for me, the learning curve is much steeper with those. And I've seen setups for games for Pathfinder conventions, and they usually take about 30 minutes to an hour to set the game up because it's tough, man. Especially unless you're going to have pre-gens, it's tough. But 5e, you can kind of roll that out there, and everybody kind of figures out what's going on. I think
I should mention, by the way, one of your develettes is actually in the room right with us right now.
Oh my gosh! Oh dear. Yep, it's the problem child.
It's the mischief maker out of the two of them.
Oh, look at this! It's your favorite devilet. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure you are. Yeah, you are.
You're the only one that's here right now, Jen. So let's just
you're
go
my
with
favorite.
that.
Yeah. She's definitely.
And Alex Vixen, by the way, Alex Vixen is our little almost narrator in the chat. She typed, you must touch the correct items in the correct order. The sequence is 27 long. The sequence will reset and you will die if you make a mistake.
I'm not kidding. There literally is stuff like this in Dungeon. That's why Mark Greenberg was pulling the hair out of his head, he was like, we can't do this for 5e. You can't do this. And he was literally pulling his hair out going, I've got to change this. But yes, there are some puzzles close to that in Necropolis. They're just nuts. And I'm trying to remember the exact one he said. It was something like there's 12 statues on the wall, and if you touch them in the wrong order, you die. But there's no clues to what the right order is. 0 clues. So you just got to do, trial and error. Or you figure out, like I said, that was my thing. I was like, well, somebody could just use maybe commune or divination because unless you have a whole bunch of henchmen you just want to get rid of. Like, okay, henchman number 5, go touch them in this order. Oh, that was not it. Oh, okay, henchman number 6, you're up, buddy. But yeah, so there is stuff like that in here that's just nuts. But hey, if you're making a killer dungeon, there's stuff in Tomb of Horrors, right? That's just, if you've never been in Tomb of Horrors and you run into now, the thing about Tomb of Horrors nowadays is everybody's read it, and everybody knows what's going on, so it's kind of a cheat, right? You go through Tomb of Horrors like, oh yeah, I know this is gonna. Don't jump in the mouth. You're gonna be disintegrated. Don't do this. But yeah, the first time you do it, you don't know all that stuff. It's crazy. You're like, how would I even know this? How do I know not to go in this one room here? I'd be crushed to death. I mean, come on. But that's the whole point of killer dungeons.
I was saying this on the chat actually not that long ago, where the first convention game I went to, which was a killer dungeon, it's like, how long can you survive? I wasn't prepared for it, man. It was like, what do you mean I'm dead? I've only been sitting there 45 minutes, and that's the point.
Yeah, Yeah, it's kind of a tried and true trope, right, of D&D, is that you have to have that one dungeon that just kills everybody, and then there's really very little way to get to avoid it, unless you're really careful. Because I remember I used to talk to people and say, "Oh yeah, my group went through Tomb of Horrors and they were fine, nobody died." I'm like, "How?" But then when I got older, I realized, okay, because they were smart. They didn't kick in the door and run in with their sword swinging, and they were just careful and stealthy, and and they use spells, and so that's probably going to be the same thing in Necropolis. If you know what you're doing, you can go in there and not avoid TPK, but you have to be careful. You just have to be careful.
I'm paranoid. I think a healthy dose of paranoia works. So, Mike,
definitely.
So I know at conventions you don't get to play much, but in all of your playing time, what is your favorite type of dungeon? What is your favorite type of game? What do you like doing?
I love so the older I've gotten a lot different. So every year at North Texas I run B1 and Search the Unknown, which is my favorite all-time dungeon ever. It was the first dungeon I ever was running in. It's the first dungeon I ever ran. I just love everything about it. It's just such a classic, crazy, gonzo, weird, type dungeon that I just dig it. I dig the whole backstory. I mean, I can still read that backstory and almost get shivers in my spine, thinking this is gonna be cool. Rogan and Zelagar had this castle and they disappeared years ago, and you guys are going to investigate. It's just such a cool setup, everything about it. So I like that's the kind of thing I like to run. I like to run abandoned ruins, something that's been around a long time that's spooky like that. Or I like hex crawls a lot. And the reason I like hex crawls is because you have to think on your feet a lot. And a lot of DMs don't like that because they like to plan everything down to the last minutia point. But no, I love hex crawl kind of stuff because you just never know where it's going, right? You're in this hex, and here's your village, and here's a bunch of rumors, and so what do you want to do? And I just love it when characters all get together. Okay, let's go investigate the haunted cemetery over here, because you don't know. They could have picked 5 other places to go, so you got to be on your toes as a DM. You got to be sitting there like, okay, I'm ready for them to do whatever. And I really love stuff like that. I think it's very challenging for a DM, and I just think it's fun. It's fun to sit there and not really know what you're going to do every session.
I have never heard the term hex crawl before. And maybe that makes me a little bit of an idiot, but I have never heard the term hex crawl.
Well, you've heard sandbox, right? You know what a sandbox is?
Yeah.
A sandbox is a setting that basically there's no set encounters. You just here's a map. There's 15 different places you can go. What are you gonna do? And you just wander, and then you get wandering monsters. You may get a whole encounter through a wandering monster that you didn't expect. Well, hex crawl, that's where hex crawl is pretty much the same thing as going through a sandbox. You're just going from hex to hex, because that's the way a lot of the old modules are set up with Judge's Guild and a lot of the companies. They just had all these different hexes, and you'd roll randomly to see what was in the hex. That's why I went in there. And each hex was like anywhere from 3 miles to 30 miles, depending on your scale. And so, that was a big thing in the early days of the hobby. Well, what happened was when we got to about the 80s or so, everybody said, no, that's too. We can't ask people to run those kind of dungeons. We're going to have a set dungeon. Here it is, and that's kind of where you got the railroad dungeon, right? Where here's the entrance. You go through all this stuff, and there's the exit, and then you weren't really supposed to go anywhere else except go through this railroad. And some of the best known dungeons are railroads. I mean, they're great, but they're still railroads. It's like, I mean, S1's a railroad. You have an entrance, you have this whole dungeon, you have the end. I mean, you could try to go other ways, but it's really the dungeon's working against you to try to make shortcuts or cut corners. And that's how a lot of these dungeons are. They don't allow you to do the shortcuts, cut corners. A hex crawl is just, it's wide open. You don't know what your group's going to do. So you can have you say you have a village on the coast, and you have all these this whole place around, like, oh, what are you guys gonna do? Okay, well, we're gonna go, there's some pirates up the coast. We're gonna go try to look for the pirates. So they walk up the coast, you roll some random encounters, they find something. Well, by the time they get up, they're like, you know what? we don't really want to fight pirates anymore. We're going to go north because there's some wyverns in the forest. We heard a rumor, we stopped this little village and got something to eat. There's a rumor there's some wyverns killing villagers. We're going to go that way. That's what a hex crawl is. You don't know what's happening. You don't know what's going to happen. They totally abandoned the pirate thing, but you don't have to put them on the railroad and say, no, you have to go fight the pirates because that's what you said you're going to do. You just go, okay, sure, you're going to go fight the wyverns now? And then they get to the mountains, they're like, well, here's some dwarven tunnels down here. Screw the wyverns, man. We're going to explore these dwarven tunnels.
Nice. I do want to give a shout out, by the way, to Edgard Wobes.
That's hex crawling. You're just going for...
Sorry, Edgard Wobes, he just subscribed to me, and I really do want to appreciate that. He or she, thank you very much. Very much appreciated.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Every Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, yes. I stream. I work on the latest maps that I've been commissioned for. We're currently working on Frog Guards, Necropolis. We'll be finished on this by this month. I do 2 different projects a week, and there will be Gallant Knight Games' Viking map, Salt Wolves of the Whale Road, very different type of map that we're also working on.
Now, do you ever... Now, so... 2020 was a rough one, but you guys still had a lot of work, right? You were pretty busy with your regular job, but also with your mapping stuff, right? I mean, you had stuff going on the whole year, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, it didn't stop. But I mean, I'm a little bit different than your sort of standard cartographer in a way. I mean, look what I'm drawing here. A standard cartographer would have this thing done in just a couple of hours. Bish, bash, bosh, finished. But I kind of like to hand draw every freaking brick, every boulder, every flagstone. I want every map to feel a little bit more real. So everything takes me a little bit longer, especially like my city maps, right? And...
Oh, sure, yeah.
Well, I had Gaxmore at the beginning of the year. I had Lokatoy City map like around the middle of the year. I had this one that I was working on, and I forget, but I'm always kind of 6, 9, 12 months booked out, Mike, and I am this year too, so having things to do has never been a problem, I suppose, from that perspective.
No, and that's, isn't that great to be wanted? It's great when you because at a certain point in your career, you're looking for work, and then if you succeed, you're succeeding when people are looking for you. Like, whoa, this is different. People are looking for me. I'm not having to go scramble around and look for work. And that's, you've reached that point now because your stuff's just amazing. I mean, it's amazing. It really is. I know you get tired of hearing it. I'm sure you get tired of hearing it because you don't have an ego like.
I don't get tired of hearing it. You could gush on me all you like, my friend. I don't. I'm one of those people that has what is that mental, I'm going to call it almost disorder, where you have this insecurity and you're just waiting for people to figure out that you're a fraud.
Sure.
I have that. I have that in spades. So
right.
Yeah, I like my work. I realize what I'm bringing to the cartography sphere at its stupid levels of detail. It doesn't matter what the subject matter of the map is. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that niche, and I'm comfortable with the likes of Frog Gods. They have their regular mapper, Robert Altbauer, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
He does 99% of their maps, but when they want something that's going to get printed at 12 feet across, they get in touch with me, and I like that. I like that position, that little niche that I have in the world, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Well, Alex says imposter syndrome. That's the name.
That's the one. That's the one. Imposter syndrome.
Well, I know it's tough because I have friends like you, and you can't just tell them no, don't have it, right? Because it's something inside you. Because I have friends that are very successful at their business like you are, and you just, I mean, you can't just say no, don't have that. You're obviously successful because that's something, that's your drive, right? That's something within yourself. That's not something you can just tell people like, oh no, you're really well known and famous now. You don't have to have imposter syndrome. I remember seeing
I had dreams about it, Mike. I've had dreams about this imposter syndrome. Like people sort of figuring out that, I don't know, I'm no good at it. It's kind of weird.
Is that like my dream I have when I don't have any pants on? I'm in college.
It's probably similar. It's probably similar, yeah.
Yeah. My wife says those dreams, I think she looked it up one time, those dreams mean you're not prepared for something. Like, I must not be prepared for a lot of things because I still have that dream. I've been to college in 40 years and I still have that dream where I'm in college. I'm like, I haven't studied for this test, and where are my pants and shoes? What the hell is going on? Like, maybe I could just sneak out of the room and nobody will see me. I'm gonna get an F on the test, so because I don't even know what we're doing. So
Great Babe, Texas, I'm going to assume, said, "Did Frog God make you draw a map of a hand giving us a middle finger?" Well, it looks that way. I can't lie. I mean, look at it. It does. It absolutely does. And yet, all I've done is I've drawn the black and white version. And the black and white version kind of almost looks like a side view. It's got that vibe, but you definitely don't see middle finger. For some reason, with my version of the map, you do. But maybe that's the inner Faden coming out. I don't know.
So Alex says that Boris Vallejo has a posture. I think, if I remember correctly, Michael Caine, the actor, has that too. And
really?
Somebody asked him one time, why do you, because, Michael Caine will do anything. He will be in the crappiest movie you've ever seen, but he always says, like, I'm afraid if I turn somebody down, that they will stop calling me. That we're talking about Michael freaking Caine, who's been in everything. He's scared that if he turns people down, he won't get called, which is nuts. But imposter syndrome is not realistic, but it's there, right? I mean, that's how you feel. You can't tell people not to feel that way. Oh boy, what's Jen still doing here? Doesn't Zach have something for her to do?
I think she likes taunting Zach, actually, by hanging out in the channel. Talking of which, we're going to have both her and Zach later this month.
Oh, I will tune in for that one, because that is that might be a train wreck. I have got to see that. I think
it's the Wednesday before GaryCon.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be great. See, and here's what's funny about. So Jen, she started out as a typical housewife that didn't really know anything about D&D or gaming or anything like that. And now she's got to the point where she knows this stuff. I mean, she knows these things, right? And so I think that kind of annoys Zach a little bit because, he can't hide behind all these words and things that she might not understand. She understands everything now. So, she can give as well as she can take now. She's able to tell him, no, that artist is not this or that writer is not that. I mean, she knows this stuff. It's hilarious now because, I mean, I was like, I don't want my wife to know gaming that well. I don't want her to know all that stuff. I want to be able to, like, I'm smart, I want to think that I'm really intelligent. And, I don't want her to know I don't want her to see how the sausage is really made. She might realize that I'm not really that smart. So, but yes, Jen she's able to absorb, she says I'm at work. She's able to absorb everything in the industry, and she's able to, I mean, she helps us at Frog God now. She's an essential part of Frog God. She's the person that yells at Pex and I. We don't do our stuff we're supposed to do. And I bet she yells at Matt and Zach too. But
well, she is in her own way a celebrity. Because I remember going to ReaperCon and they didn't care that all the Frog was sitting there. They were like, "Where's Jen?" That's the first thing out of their mouths. Gosh, "Where's Jen?"
Yeah. That's ridiculous. Yeah. And then obviously she's one of the Devilettes at North Texas, which the Devilettes is a funny story because I didn't tell them to be Devilettes. Jen Green and Jen Glazer just decided they were going to be Devilettes, and they go, "Oh, we're going to be at your we're going to be at your midnight auction. We're going to wear devil costumes." Like, oh, okay, I don't really have a say in it, I guess, and I didn't. So yes, they've been our. And they're actually I need them. They're very helpful. They hand me stuff and they tell me to face the audience. I mean, because I'm an old man. I wander around the stage. I'm, staring at the back wall or something, or I'm selling something and I put it on the table. They say, no, hold it up. And so they're the people there that make sure I know what I'm doing because, let's face it, I'm not getting any younger and I'm getting old and cranky and weird. So, but yeah, they're great. Both the Jens are just incredible. And Jen Glazer's, I mean, God, I better not praise her too much. If I start, we're gonna. I'll never.
I don't know. I think she deserves a little bit of love. You know what I'm saying? She does.
She just said I was able to get Mike's better half to play a D&D game. So when I met my wife, she came from a very religious background to where Dungeons and Dragons was summoning demons. I mean, that's just what, that, and we were talking about the 90s, and even farther back in the 80s, that was just what they believed, right? That, oh my gosh, this is a demon. This is something really bad. You're doing spells. And so she didn't know much about gaming. I said, look, me, I don't truck in that stuff. So obviously there's not demons being summoned. Let's play in a D&D game. So I ran her through B1 Search for the Unknown, probably 1995 or 96. And that was the one and only time she ever played. She just wanted to see what it was like. She's like, okay, it's not demonic, it's fun, whatever. I don't like it. She thinks it's crazy to sit there around a table and talk for like 5 hours. She thinks it's insane. So she's like, whatever. So my grandkids have played. Mimi, you want to join us? No, I'm not playing anymore because it's boring. It's I don't like to do it. Well, Jen got her to play. They had a wives game about 2 North Texas ago. And they had all the wives playing, and they invited my wife, and she actually played. So I was shocked she agreed to it. But if I wanted her to do it, she wasn't going to do it. But she would do it for Jen. So Jen got her to play, and so that was funny because while once again she didn't really like playing because she doesn't like D&D or like role-playing games, she enjoyed it because of the company. And right, that's why we play a lot of the times. Yeah. Just because we want to hang out with our friends and just be around people we know. I mean, there's a lot of things I'll do because I don't want to do, but if you're doing it and Jack's doing it and Zach's doing it and Peck's doing it, I'm in. I'm in. Whatever. I don't know what we're doing, but I'm in. So that was one of her achievements. She got my wife to play D&D again after 30 years or whatever, 25 years.
That's actually quite the achievement. That's awesome. I managed to get a wife of a friend to actually play in a semi-similar way. She didn't understand it. She doesn't know what's going on. She knows her husband is playing all of the time. She has no concept of what it is. And I'm running Call of Cthulhu. And we actually go to their house. And I'm running Masks of Nyarlathotep.
Oh, my favorite all-time campaign of all time.
And it's wonderful,
Any
right?
role-playing game.
It's wonderful.
Oh my god.
And so we're just running. I think it might have been the American chapter. No, the British chapter. They've arrived in England, and we're having a whale of a time. But Call of Cthulhu. It's story, it's narrative, right?
Sure.
And so we're just playing the game, and she's sitting on the couch, and she's watching sports or something. And it was funny. It was partway through the game when someone in the group said, "So what was that guy's name?" And she's in the living room, and she's like, just Carlisle. His name's Carlisle, and she'd been listening the whole time.
That's great.
At the end of the game, she's like, "This is different than what I was expecting. It sounds so good." Well, bugger me. Like, the next time we went over there, we were like, "Do you want to play?" And she was like, "Okay," but only for an hour or two. I can't imagine being here for any more than that. She was there for the full 8 hours. Like, just she loved it. She loved it. Yeah.
I love those kind of stories. Well, you want to hear my Master Yarlathotep story?
Yeah, very much.
Well, by the way, whether you want to hear it, I'm just going to tell it because I just one of my favorite stories ever. So, in the '80s, I got this is the box. Original box set, not the compilations that came out later, but this is the OG Master Yarlathotep. So I get that, and so I wanted to run a campaign. So I have both my brothers, my younger brothers, another friend of mine who used to play in All Might stuff, and then I have 2 people. One has never played Call of Cthulhu. The other has never played a role-playing game of any sort whatsoever. He has no expectations, no clues. So we're getting there, rolling up characters. He goes, "I want to play." He said, "This is the '20s. I want to play Indiana Jones. Can I play an Indiana Jones type character?" And I said, "Sure." And so he had a guy who had a whip, and he made him have a whip and a pistol. I mean, he was basically Indiana Jones in Call of Cthulhu, which you could do because it's the same time period.
Yeah.
So we played that game, and we played that one whole summer. I mean, we would meet once a week, all 5 of us or whatever. And then I think one of my brothers, my middle brother Robert, dropped out eventually. He had something else to do, so it was really 4 people. It's 4 people going through it at one. So my youngest brother, another guy, and then the 2 new guys, and they had a blast because sometimes you get people that don't normally play role-playing games. They don't fall into the cliches. You know what I'm saying? It's all new to them. They don't know what they're supposed to do or not supposed to do, and so they just do the most amazing things because they don't know that they're not supposed to do that or supposed to do it, and so. We had the best time. Everybody lost a few characters. The Indiana Jones guy lived through the whole series.
Nice.
Yeah. We finished it. I think we finished at Christmas time that year. We played during all summer. We played during the Thanksgiving holiday, and we finally finished it up to 2 weeks for Christmas holiday. And it was just we had the best time. That's the best time I've ever had playing a campaign with two guys that had never played Call of Cthulhu. One person never played RPGs, and that guy, he went on, and he was the kind of guy. He was like an athlete in high school, just never played any kind of D&D or role-playing things. This guy got nuts about role-playing games after that, and so for years later, he would always say, I do this and that, but it was your game that got me started. That mass, whatever, he can't pronounce it, because that massive whatever game you ran, that was so great. I played this, and he would start telling stories about, I played Indiana Jones guy, and I had dynamite, and I would throw it, and we did this, and I blew up this cultist, and and it was just great, because that one campaign, that game got him started in a whole lifetime of playing role-playing games. And I've always loved that campaign, because it's a great campaign, isn't it? It's just amazing. I mean it's just so intricate, yet it's deadly. I mean, you have to do a lot of stealthy stuff, but also you have to fight a lot. And sometimes Call of Cthulhu shies away from that, like, oh no, don't get into combat. In Master Your Relative, you have to fight your way out of some situations. You're gonna get in there with your Tommy gun and start mowing down cultists, or you're dead, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that, and I like that. No, you're right. Call of Cthulhu does tend to shy away from that, but also this is unrelenting in that if you don't know you're about to get yourself into a firefight or something else, you're probably going to die. But if you do know that you're about to get into it, then yes, you have your stick of dynamite and you're ready to rock and roll. And it's like, I like that. I do. It's like it rewards smart players that are really, like, they do their research, they're figuring what's going on. But around every corner, there is that possibility of, now you're dead.
So my youngest brother had a character. To this day, I remember his character's name, Pete Crenshaw. Pete Crenshaw was a mountain boy from Tennessee, and he said, I'm going to make him so good at the rifle. So he put all his points in rifle skill, and he was the sniper, and he also had been in World War I, right? So whenever there came a situation, like you said, they were prepared. He would get a spot, and he would basically put a bullet through the high priest's head. Whenever they went to Kenya or England, this guy he was money, right? I mean, he would sit there and do a crit roll, and the high priest is about to do something, and boom, he's dead. Like, holy crap. So he was basically the glue that held this party together. And he was he played him like real uneducated. He was a hick, he's from like I said, the mountains of Tennessee, and he was a great character. And so they had the final confrontation at the end, and they're at the cave. I mean, you probably remember all this, and there's a rocket about to launch, but they blew up the stuff, and the rocket's about to blow the cave up, and they're all running out of the cave. And so I said, okay, everybody has to make a luck roll. Everybody made their luck roll but Pete Crenshaw. And so he survived the entire campaign to die when a rock flew out and hit him in the head and killed him. and I said, how did you want to die? He goes, I just want to die like that, because that's just like so inconsequential and ridiculous. After everything he's done, he's killed hundreds of cultists and this and that. He's running out of the cave, and a boulder hits him in the head and kills him. And so they had a heartfelt funeral for Pete Crenshaw at the on the shore of the island or whatever. But it was great, because you're right, you could die at any time. It's just, I mean, and they're just like, oh my god, that guy was everybody else is just like shocked, like, oh my god, he died. Like, yeah, he's dead. He made it through the whole campaign. He died. Like, I know. Well, it's just it's luck, bad luck, man. But yeah, Call of Cthulhu is a fun game. That's one of the game I really need to get back into, because I have tons of Call of Cthulhu stuff that I bought over the years. I love that game. I'm a big Lovecraft fan. I like cosmic horror, so Masks is probably the best. I think it's probably one of the best campaigns ever written for any game, not just Call of Cthulhu.
I think that's a fair observation. For me, so I had this big layoff of role playing in general when I moved to the United States. And then an even longer layoff from Call of Cthulhu in general. It was always Dungeons & Dragons. And I've got this regular group, and I still have this huge collection of Call of Cthulhu books, and I really want them to experience Call of Cthulhu. And slowly but surely, just building over time, I'm like, I want to run Call of Cthulhu so bad. And just the group wasn't right, something wasn't right. But eventually they were like, yeah, okay, let's try it. I'm like, fantastic. But I've been 20 years not running Call of Cthulhu at this point. So I got in this Facebook group, And I'm like, okay, so I'm about to get back into Call of Cthulhu. I'm running for a whole bunch of people that have never played before. What would you recommend? Well, you can imagine it, Mike. Everyone is talking about, I don't know, haunted horror at such and such a house, or this or that, the other. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm doing Masks of Nyarlathotep. I'm going all in.
You're dropping right in the deep end. They're going right in the deep end of the pool. You're right here, baby.
And I have no regrets. Yeah. No regrets on that decision at all. It's such a great campaign.
Yeah.
And I'm critical of other people's writing, but that is spot on, that one.
Well, the first adventure you end up doing with Mass, spoiler alert, well, it's been out 30-something years, but there's a place called the Juju House in New York, and the bottom level is full of these cultists. And so, of course, they go there somewhat unprepared. They're fighting cultists, and they eventually go, let's run. I mean, let's just get out of here. They're running in the streets. The cultists summon a hunting horde to chase them down. So you have this scene in the New York in the 20s. There's cars driving off the road. There's police officers shooting in the air. You got this hunting horror. There's cultists, screaming, half-naked cultists with swords attack. I mean, it's just this crazy scene in the heart of I think it plays in Harlem. I can't remember, or Hell's Kitchen. I can't remember. They're just shooting people. People are dying right and left. It's just this chaotic, insane scene. And after that, they were hooked. Like, man, this game is awesome. Because they're trying to. After it's done, the police officers have lost their sanity. I mean, everyone's just crazy. There's a dead hunting horror laying in the street, and so I said the hunting horror just disintegrated, obviously, because the body can't be left around, so it just decayed rapidly. It was gone. And there's just dead cultists laying everywhere with bullets in them, and Tommy gun just people just shooting everywhere. So they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, this game, we're in, man. We're into this game because this was just over the top. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what you want. One of the characters had gone permanently insane. They had to retire right there. She's like, oh, she's not going to make the rest of the adventure. She's going to the asylum because she saw something crazy. But yeah, the best. What I want to run? I would love to run. Have you ever read Mountains of Madness? They're the big, giant, thick Call of Cthulhu campaign. I think it came out about 15 years
I
ago.
own it. I own it. I have not read it, and I own that book you're talking about.
Very good. It's really good, and I would say it's as good as Masks, and I'd love to run it someday. But listen, we're talking about a level of commitment that I don't know if I have, because you're talking, when you look at something like that, you're talking about 10 sessions, maybe 15. I mean, you're talking a whole year playing that thing. I mean, it is humongous.
What about Horror on the Orient Express?
I don't like that as much as a lot of other people. That gets a lot of. I don't like as much as some other people, because to me it's very disjointed. I don't think a lot of the scenarios fit with each other. But I mean, I could be wrong, because people just love that campaign. They really enjoy it. I just don't. I think I don't rate it as highly as a lot of other people do. I would rate Masks above that. I would definitely rate Mountains of Madness. Mountains of Madness says, here's how cool it is. You're in the expedition. You're going to the Antarctic to look for the first one that got lost in the Lovecraft story, Mountains of Madness. They never came home. So you got this freighter and you're going down there. Before you ever start out, you're given like this 50. I mean, you have to copy these pages off. You give the characters this 5 double-page list of here's what's in your inventory, and you have to tell me if everything you need's there. If the players F up and don't, because there's intentional mistakes in there. They packed wrong things. Well, like instead of like skis, they accidentally pack like bamboo rods or something. And so if your characters are not smart enough to go through that list and start going, whoa, what's this? No, we don't need this. We need something else. They're going to be screwed when they get to Antarctic. They're going to have to make do with stuff.
That's
so
cool.
Like
I
you
like
have a bunch
that.
of guns.
I like that.
And these are all 30-06s. Oh, but you get there, all your ammunition is 50 caliber. But if you spot it beforehand, you can say, oh, hold on. This says we have 8 box 50 caliber, but we over here we have a 30-06. We need to change the rep. So that's how cool the campaign is. Before you even start, you have to do the whole voyage down there in the ship. Of course, and then there's a cultist on the ship that's trying to kill everybody, and then you get down there, and then of course you're adventuring in the Antarctic, and you go beneath beneath the ground, and there's all kinds of cool stuff. It's awesome. If you've ever read Mountains of Madness, it's pretty much this. You're going through the same thing, and of course, then you got to get back home. There's a whole thing where you're like, okay, we got to get out of here. You have to jump back on your freighter and head home. Well, you're heading home. There's something has gotten on your ship, and so then it's like Alien. Then you're like chasing this creature all over this giant freighter, and it's like Alien. It gets bigger as time goes on. So it's a really, I would recommend reading it. It's a great read anyway. I'd love to play it, but man, the level of commitment is just something I don't know if I can do anymore.
You played for a year, without a doubt.
You got to guarantee yourself quite a few. Oh yeah, definitely. There's some real good for anybody interested. If you look on YouTube, there's some great Call of Cthulhu campaigns where they've done them online, where they've so there's also some podcasts. There's some great podcasts. I think there's a few podcasts of Masks near Arthur Tep. I think there's a real famous one of Mountains of Menace. I believe it won some kind of award because it took them like 58 sessions or something to get through with it. It was a crazy amount of time. But yeah, if you're interested in that, look on YouTube for people who have done sessions of Call of Cthulhu online. It's pretty. I can actually watch that more than I can watch a D&D session. I'm not into the online D&D stuff as much as a lot of other people are. I just
Mike, you and me the same, my friend. No, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I will watch a Call of Cthulhu session, especially the guys that will dress up and everything. And they're all there in their period costumes and stuff.
Yes.
And I'm like, and I will just sit and lap that shit up. But like D&D game, I'm like, I'm fine.
Man,
I'm
we are
okay.
exactly the same, Les. That's exactly. I mean, I'm the same way. I don't know what it is. It's because Call of Cthulhu kind of reminds me of old radio shows or something. I don't know. It's just maybe there's a historical aspect of it. But yeah, I'm with you. I can't watch a D&D campaign online. Who are the guys that do the really famous show on YouTube? Oh dear God, I can't believe I can't remember their names.
Like Critical Role or something?
The Critical Role,
Right.
Yeah, the Critical Role guys. I just never got into it. I tried to watch it, and I'm nodding out after about 15 minutes. Like, I'm out. Nothing here it just doesn't interest me. But you put a Call of Cthulhu campaign on there, and I'm all into it. I'm like, all right, what's going on here? Let's do it.
So how much of that do you think is the Call of Cthulhu investigating? There's a story being revealed, so you kind of want to hear it yourself.
I think a big part of it. I think that's a huge part of it, because when you have a D&D session, it's usually there's something going on outside of town. It's in this room. We're going to go chase it out. You get all your characters together, and they go over there and they beat up stuff, whatever. Call of Cthulhu, like you said, it's much more investigative. It's kind of like a horror story. It's like a Stephen King story that slowly unfolds. It starts out slow. Okay, there's disappearances in this valley nearby. This valley has a very bad reputation. Let's do some research on it. Ooh, yeah, there was a bunch of witches that got killed there, 20 years ago, and they cursed the area, and So yeah, it all starts just developing like that, and so you already got this creepy feeling, So it's like watching people act out a horror movie, right? Well, this story by Alex here that's a good story.
All right, Alex Vixen. I'm going to read this out for folks. Call of Cthulhu short story by Alex Vixen. GM has a group of cultists attempting to summon their god, like they do, of course, and our characters decide to wipe them out in a sweep. I'm not sure this is a good idea, so I voice my opinion, partially due to our researcher character wasn't there at the plan, partially I don't want to die or go insane. Those are good motivations.
True.
The party brush it off, not a good idea in Call of Cthulhu, and go with the plan. And most plans are bad plans. Anyway, I say I'm going to go get the researcher. The rest go to murder the cultists. Me and the researcher arrive to the sounds of gunfire. Well, of course. Our researcher screams out, "Don't do that! They're summoning Yib!" Yibster still. He's basically a blood god. Oh, yeah, okay. From the cult's hall we hear, "So don't spill blood," right? Oh. Yes, why, 40 dead cultists would be bad here. Researcher runs away.
Yes.
Yes.
Look. There is nothing wrong by ending a Call of Cthulhu session with everybody running away. There is nothing wrong with that. That is actually sometimes that's the best thing to do. Just haul ass out of there because something bad's gonna happen if you can't stop it. My group, their default was burn everything down. They would always, like, okay, we can't cleanse this house. Let's just burn it down. They would just pour gasoline over it and set fires. It got so bad that I actually had the police investigate them for arson because they were figuring out that everywhere their car was, the buildings ended up burning down. There was major fires wherever they went. So, but yeah, that was their solution. Like we can't stop this. Just burn the house down, burn the building down, burn the boat down. Burn the caves. I mean, whatever it was, just burn it down. Put some explosives in there, blow everything up, and just leave. And hopefully we killed it and it's gone. And if not, oh well. We don't have to deal with it anymore. So,
I think one of the things I like about Call of Cthulhu for me is, there's not many games where the players will run away. You know what I mean? With Dungeons and Dragons, it's like any encounter you put in there, the players want to kill it because it's XP.
Sure.
They want to kill it, they get the XP, get the treasure. That's the whole point. It's an encounter to be defeated. While in Call of Cthulhu, no. Sometimes winning is actually running the hell away from it.
Not only that, but so there's different expectations. So the expectation in a game, a fantasy role-playing game, is that here's a foe. Now, unless you're doing what's called a pure hex crawl, where your first level character could run into a dragon. I mean, the DM's not doing anything. He's saying, hey, wherever you want to go, you go. Over this hill, there's dragons. If you want to go there, I'm not going to make a first level dragon for you. You're going to die. So unless you're doing something like that, usually your enemies are scaled to you, correct? If you're an 8th level party, you're going to be fighting 8th, 9th level monsters. The great thing about Call of Cthulhu is you're fighting things that can't be defeated with anything. I mean, maybe you could drop a nuke on them. I don't know. I mean, you usually can't defeat it with a gun or bullets or a knife. You have to outthink it. You have to figure out the counter spell that's going to send this demon back to the outer realms. You have to destroy the one cultist that can summon stuff. You have to find the right elder sign to put, so you have to do something that's usually not just, okay, yeah, we just go in and kill everybody. You're going to kill everybody, it's all going to be okay. And that's what's so cool about games like that. Another game that's kind of like that reminds me of Top Secret. I don't know if you play Top Secret or espionage type games, because a lot of times the thing you want to do is not get in a gunfight. Until you play a game like Top Secret or espionage, you don't realize that, I remember the first game of Top Secret I ran for my friends way back in the early 80s. They basically ended very quickly because they all ran in the front door, kicked the door in, and they all got shot to death. Because it's not D&D. I mean, it's a bullet. A bullet could go through your head, you're dead. I mean, that's it. You don't get shot 30 times. It gets to keep fighting. And so they're like, oh, this is not like D&D. No, it's not like D&D. You want to sneak around, and if you want to shoot somebody, you want to get a sniper going. You want to set explosives. You don't want to rush to the door, kick the door in, and try and take stuff out. So Call of Cthulhu kind of has that same aesthetic. Okay, you don't want to rush in with your Tommy gun and just start blowing stuff away. Let's find out what's going on here first. Well, like Alex's example. This is a blood god. Okay, we can't kill all these people. We need to figure out some other way to beat them, because shooting them all is going to be very bad. So, I do like that system a lot. Boy, I'm getting all nostalgic about Call of Cthulhu, man. I may have to run something soon, because that is a fun system and a fun game to run. And they have a new edition of it. It's pretty nice too. And little known fact, at one point, Frog God was going to do Call of Cthulhu modules. It just kind of fell through, unfortunately.
I thought that was still on the table. I thought that was still a thing.
Well, yeah, I guess it is. It's taken so long. It's just taken so long. But yeah, it is kind of still on the table. But it's just, yeah, I'm interested because I know we have some people. I think Tom Knaus is one of the guys that wants to write.
He's going to be writing. Skeeter's going to be writing. I'm going to be involved. I think Jack is going to be involved. Well, then it sounds like you know more than I do. That maybe you're the one that knows more than I do. That's awesome. I heard that awesome. I don't want to even say negotiations took a long time, but what I heard was because of COVID and everything, just things took a long freaking time to get panned out. But yeah. I heard that it's still happening.
I think that's why. Yeah. Well, then that's good. I'm a little bit out of the loop, so that's awesome. Then I would love to hear that. That's what I definitely want to. I would definitely like us to branch out and do stuff. I mean, we do Bunnies and Burrows, which is great. We get a lot of people asking us when more Bunnies and Burrows are going to come out. Unfortunately, it's not. We're not going to have any more Bunnies and Burrows come out. But it's Bunnies and Burrows is a fun game, man. That's
And
a
I
game.
can understand why people ask for more of that.
Sure.
I
We,
mean, I
we only
really
have
can.
we only have 4 published scenarios. But yeah, I would love us to branch out more and do more systems. That's fun. I mean, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right? I mean, at some point people are going to get tired of doing fantasy games, you would think. I mean, we've been doing it, 40, 50 years now. You figure at some point people are going to be like, okay, there's not another dungeon I want to go in. There's not another mountain I want to climb. There's not another ruin I want to explore. Let's do something else. So yeah, it's good to get out there and do different stuff. Oh, I finally stopped. Okay, there we go. Top 6 my first RPG. Oh, Pex, Sexy Pex. I'm running Bunnies and Bros for Frogga Games Day coming up. Nice. Pex, that is awesome.
That is really
it
awesome.
Really is a fun. Oh, that's right. He told me that the other day. It really is a fun game. That's gonna be fun. Oh, I love your shading there. That is great, Melissa. I like that.
Yeah, I'll do a couple of these just to get
just
it starts to pick the wall off the map, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks. God, that went from 0 to 60, man. Oh yeah, that looks so much. That looks so nice.
And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do another softer layer underneath it that's even bigger. And yeah, this is just gonna start rocking.
Right. Box office, boy. Look how many people you got here now. Who's box office Jack? That's nice.
That is our Jack.
That's our Jack. Oh, yeah. Look at him trying to horn in. We love you, Jack. We do love you, Jack. Yes. So, have you done any Are you doing any online games right now, Alyssa? Or are you
That's a really good question. So. Yay, no. I'm actually doing it more recently. I ran actually for the Tulix and Gabe and Ola. That was probably honestly busting my 2021 cherry right there. I think it was. And I did 2 sessions with them, and I did Cthulhu Invictus. And we're gonna actually continue with the same characters here shortly. We're just gonna keep on going.
Cthulhu Invictus has got to be that has to be your hotspot, because so for those who don't know, that's Roman era Call of Cthulhu, which looks like the most awesome era to set a Call of Cthulhu game in. Oh my gosh, I love the Invictus material. I think it's great. That is a cool setting.
Yeah, I've liked it. I've liked it, man. I've liked the fact that you can still do horror. You can do horror in any setting, and the Roman era just seems to work somehow.
Perfect. Oh yeah. I mean, the Romans were around for a little while, weren't they? So they kind of did. So, they had a. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool little setting. It's a very stable setting to set something in, and gosh, if you do some research into the Roman, which I know you have because you're a Romanophile, or however you would say it, man, they had it going on. That was a fully functioning society for almost 1,000 years. I mean, that's amazing. So yeah, there's all kinds of little twists and turns you can put in there, to do a Call of Cthulhu adventure set in Roman times. That is great. Texas, and he I don't think he's run anything at Gamehole, but he did run some Invictus at North Texas a few times.
Yeah, that was his shtick.
Yeah,
he and I spoke for briefly about both of us writing something for Cthulhu Invictus, but because it belongs to Golden Goblin Games, and we don't really want to hitch our wagon to that, we want to hitch it to Frog, so
sure.
I'm not sure it's really going to go anywhere.
Yeah, that's too bad. Well, I mean, there's plenty. Look, you can use all of history. There's plenty of settings. I've seen some really great one set on the moon or Mars. I can't remember. It's pretty cool. And it's I remember reading it was a monograph that came out years ago, and I think they eventually developed it, but it was we've settled on Mars. Humanity is on Mars. I don't remember. There's maybe a few thousand people live there, and one day they start getting these really weird transmissions from Earth, and it turns out that somebody's summoned the old ones to Earth. So Earth's basically gone now. Or I mean, when they look through the telescope, it's so horrible. The guys looking through there go insane, and they ban anybody from looking at Earth. They're like, you can't look at Earth anymore. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten. And so they're on their own. They're on Mars. They're on their own now. Mars is the new, society. And so it's basically that's your setting. It's a pretty cool setting. I mean, that's your setting. And so when they're on Mars, they start finding evidence, because they're in tunnels. They're in tunnels under the Earth. That's how they live there. They start finding things under there that match Call of Cthulhu type stuff. So apparently at one point the old ones were actually on Mars, and they find out that they destroyed Mars. That's why Mars is a dead planet now. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool setting. So they have to make sure that they don't, because among the few thousand people there's a few cultists that have managed to infiltrate their way onto Mars, and they have to stop them from summoning anything, because you don't want Mars, you don't want humanity entirely destroyed. Apparently on Earth it doesn't exist anymore. So, but they could do some really cool stuff with outer space sci-fi stuff. I mean,
if you could play in any setting, Mike, what setting would it be?
When you say setting,
time period, setting, anything. Like Tom Nouse loves futuristic, right? So what do you like?
Modern. Modern is okay, but honestly, I like the 20s just because it's just that's what every Lovecraft story was set in. It was set in the 20s and 30s. It's just the classic setting for Call of Cthulhu. I really like the 20s. I think it's cool that they developed all these one-shots you can run at cons. They're set in all these different time periods. I've seen some set in Russia. I've seen some set in China. I've seen some set during Renaissance time. I mean, you could do almost anything. But when it comes down to it, I'm just a classic guy. The 20s is just, to me, is just... And plus, I've done a lot of research into the 20s, so I feel like I can competently run that time period. I've got some good research books, basically, talking about what was around the 20s. I mean, just weird stuff like, you're always thinking, okay, well, do they have fountain pens in the 20s? Well, yeah, they did. I mean, do they have this in the 20s? Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of cool to go, but you kind of go back in time, right? You're in this new time period, everything's not, you don't have phones, you can't really call each other all the time. Oddly enough, that there was a lot of landlines in the 20s. When I was doing research for Call of Cthulhu, I read about that. There was actually more landlines than you think in the 20s. But yeah, I used to like the modern era a lot too, but I think, if you've ever seen Delta Green, I think Delta Green kind of, I don't want to say it ruined it for me, but I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I'm not a big modern stuff. You have cell phones. There's a reason why horror movies aren't set in modern day anymore, because everybody has cell phones, and you can call them and say the ghost is in the back room, So I've noticed a lot of horror stories are trying to be set in the 80s because the 70s and 80s, because they're like, oh, if we set it now, everybody just use their cell phone. So
it changes the dynamic a little bit, doesn't it, when someone could just pick up their phone?
Sure.
Even just from a research point of view, it's like, well, I'm going to get on Google, I'm going to look this up. And it works, sure, but I love the low tech myself. I really do.
Sure, I do too, yeah. And you have to think, you don't have, I played, I don't know what you call it. There used to be a thing that was called 1980s Cthulhu or Modern Era Cthulhu. We played that. It was actually, they have some really good scenarios for that. It was really fun. But it's kind of cool when you can't rely on like an M16 repeating fire, submachine gun. I mean, you're primitive. You're relying on, like you said, you're relying on your brain a lot, because you can't just blow your way out of something. You can't just get grenade launched, right?
Right.
Or M16s or stuff like that. You have to work for it. You're like, okay, well, we got to defeat this monster, but we don't have enough firepower to take it out. So what are we gonna do? Well, let's burn the swamp down. Okay, well, that's a good idea. We can try to burn the swamp down. So yeah, you got to think your way out of it. So, yeah, I like the 20s, but I tell you what, I wouldn't say no to a Cthulhu Invictus campaign. I think that's a really, really interesting setting. I don't know enough about the Roman Empire to actually run one, but man, the scenarios I've read, it sounds really cool. You get to play stuff like, the Missing Legion. Maybe the Missing Legion. What happened to him?
Yes, you do.
We're gonna find out. Yeah, it's gonna be.
Well, and I think that's what Alex Kammer did. I think that's what he based it off.
I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. Yep. He did. It wasn't those filthy barbarians that killed them all. It was something worse.
It was something worse. Exactly. Yes. Mike, I gotta be honest with you. We've been going over my actual usual stream time. This has gone so fast. This has gone so quickly. I love talking to you. I really do. We need to get you back on.
Oh my gosh, I miss you and Jack and hanging out with you guys. I really do. This, I've been just talking like this because this is what I miss at cons. I just can't stop. That's why I gotta do talking crit with Eric and do 2 hours a week. Just because I'm just missing this whole connection to gaming people, and we miss you guys so much. So.
Well, look, everyone, don't forget to check out, what do you call it, Mike? Your channel?
Talking Crit. It's
Talking
on.
Crit.
If you go to YouTube and just enter Talking Crit in there, or enter Tankar's Tavern, you'll find it. We do a show every week. It's Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's Eric and I. This week, tomorrow night, our guest is going to be Greg Gillespie. He's talking about his new Kickstarter. Next week, it's going to be Courtney. I can't remember the last name. The guy. Oh my gosh, he did the Book of Alchemy for us. Pexy, help me. Sexy Pexy. Courtney.
He's like sitting there going, nope.
Anyway, so check us out on Wednesday nights. So just go to YouTube and just pull it up.
And I did
Courtney Campbell. Yes.
There you go.
We'll have him next week, and so check out Talking Crit. That's me and Eric just going on, and we have a good time. We drink during the show and hang out and just do it and talk to whoever we talk to. And we are going to have you, Alyssa. We're going to have you on pretty soon.
I'm down. I'm down. Whenever you don't have people beating down your door to let me on your show, if you need someone to stand in, or if you have someone drop out, go, Alyssa, I would love to talk to you, both of you.
We definitely need to have you on. Because,
all right. I'm down. I'm totally down.
We could go 2 hours with the standing on our heads. I mean, we could easily do 2 hours.
What, just us three sitting there just talking shit about what's going down in the RPG universe and drinking at the same time? You can count me in.
We'll get some hot opinions from you, definitely. You might not have a job in the industry after that show's over, as a matter of fact. We're going to be careful. Maybe,
but it'll be your show that delivers.
Well, thank you so much for having me on and talking to you. This is great.
Love having you, my friend. Love having you. To everyone in the chat, we've been working on the Necropolis map for Frog God Games. This is the final level. It's underneath the main dungeon that we've been drawing over the last few months. What I'm doing is I'm just adding shadows to the walls. I'm going to finish the shadows tomorrow. Tomorrow night. And then we're going to be starting working on room details. If there's furniture, if there's tables, if there's sarcophagus, or an embalming room such as this, that's what we're going to be drawing, adding all of those lovely details. And the final boss encounter in the big room there. We're close. We're really close now to finishing Necropolis. And it's been a journey. It's been fun. Mike, what a blast.
Oh, thank you so much for letting me just yak for 2 hours. I needed that. I had to get that out. I really did.
I didn't know you and I were such kindred spirits on Cthulhu. We've got to chat again.
We have to. Yes, we need to, because we definitely. By the way, I have everything published for Call of Cthulhu up to about 1999 or so. I bought everything, so I need to bring some of that to convention to show you some of the cool rare stuff.
We'll actually have to compare, because I've got some pretty old shit myself too. So yeah, we'll definitely have to compare our collections.
Or size. We'll have to compare sizes.
Compare sizes. Absolutely. So, until tomorrow, everyone, I love you all. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I'm going to be back tomorrow, still working on this same map. Good night, everyone. Absolutely. Much love. If you like what you saw tonight, check me out on YouTube. Check me out on Patreon. Until then, I will see you on the flip side. Say good night, Mike. Say goodnight, Mike.
Later, guys. Good night.